The champagne flutes had barely been raised when everything shifted. The engagement banquet at the Hanam rooftop was elegant and deliberate. 120 guests, candlelight on white linen, the city of Seoul glittering 40 stories below like something that had been arranged purely for the occasion. Jae-hoon had chosen the venue himself, not for show, because Nia had once stood on the terrace of his house and said the city looked most honest at night, when all the performance was done and only the lights remained. He stood now at the center of the room with her beside him, her hand in his, wearing a deep green gown that she had chosen without asking his opinion, which he found privately perfect. She looked calm. She always looked calm, but he knew her well enough now to read the difference between calm because she was fine and calm because she was managing something. Tonight was the second kind. He lifted his glass. "A year ago," Jae-hoon said, addressing the room, "this woman agreed to contract, terms, conditions, signatures, everything above board." A ripple of polite laughter from those who knew the story. "Tonight I want to be clear with everyone in this room. What exists between us now has nothing to do with any contract. It has no terms, no expiration, no clause that either of us can invoke to walk away cleanly." He looked at Nia. "This is real, and I'm done pretending otherwise." The applause started. Then, from a table near the back, an older man named Council Elder Beek stood up. Slowly, with the specific deliberateness of a man who wanted the room to notice his intention before he spoke. "Boss Kang," Beek said, his voice carrying without effort, "we celebrate your happiness, of course, but I wonder if you understand what you are truly choosing." He paused. "You built everything on reputation, certainty, the image of a man who cannot be moved." His eyes moved briefly to Nia, not hostile, not warm, assessing. Love is a moving target, and moving targets invite hunters. The applause had stopped. Jae-hoon looked at Beek for a long moment. The room held its breath. "Elder Beek," Jae-hoon said quietly, "I've survived 3 coup attempts, 2 territorial wars, and a 48-hour marriage deadline. I think I can manage being in love." Soft laughter. Tension released but not gone, just redistributed. Beek sat down slowly, with the expression of a man who had said exactly what he intended to say, and was content to let it work in its own time. Nia's hand tightened slightly in Jae-hoon's. He felt it. He did not look at her immediately, because he knew if he looked at her with the full weight of what he felt, in front of this room, he would give every person in it more information than was safe. Later, when the guests had thinned and the staff was clearing tables, Nia stood at the terrace railing with her shoes off, and a glass of water she wasn't drinking. Jae-hoon came to stand beside her. "The old man with the speech," she said. "Beek, he's been on the council for 22 years. Is he dangerous? Potentially. Is he right?" Jae-hoon was quiet for a moment, honest, because she had never once accepted anything less from him. He's not wrong that some people will see this as a vulnerability. Whether they're right depends on how we handle it. "How we handle it," Nia repeated, not mocking, weighing. "I know this isn't what you signed up for originally." "No," she turned to look at him, "but I'm here." I said yes. "I'm not backing out because an old man in a good suit tried to spook me." She paused. "I just want us to be honest about what we're walking into, both of us. No managing each other." "Agreed." "Then tell me about Hee-rin." Jae-hoon set his glass down on the railing. "What do you want to know?" "Everything you've been not quite saying about her for the last 3 weeks." He told her. All of it, Hee-rin's family, her standing, the informal understanding that had existed between their families before Nia, and the specific way Hee-rin had looked at the council table the day the marriage certificate was presented. Not grief, strategy. When he finished, Nia nodded once, the way she nodded when she had completed a diagnosis. "She's not going to come at you directly," Nia said. "No. She'll come at me." "Yes." Nia was quiet for a moment. Then she picked up her shoes in one hand and looked at him sideways. "Then I suppose we'd better be ready." She walked back inside. Jae-hoon stood at the railing alone for a moment, looking at Seoul below, his city, his territory, his life's entire architecture. and thought about what it meant that the most dangerous thing he had ever allowed into it was the first person who'd made it feel like somewhere worth defending. You're watching part 2 of this story, and if you haven't subscribed yet, do it right now because things are about to get complicated in ways you did not see coming. Like the video, drop a comment and stay with us. The media moved fast. Within 4 days of the banquet, the story had broken beyond the circles where Jae-hoon normally operated. Tabloid sites ran photographs from the terrace, someone's phone camera, long lens, the kind of image that shouldn't have existed but always did. Headlines followed. Seoul's most powerful crime boss and his Nigerian doctor wife, real romance or new strategy. Nia saw the articles on her phone during a break between patients. She read them with the same expression she used for lab results, looking for the actual data inside the noise. The noise, in this case, was significant. Comment sections questioned her credentials, her immigration history, her relationship with Emeka, her reasons for being in Seoul at all. One particularly motivated forum had constructed an entire theory about her scholarship being fabricated. She put her phone away, picked up the next patient file, and went back to work. But the hospital atmosphere had changed in the way that atmospheres change before anyone says anything directly. A slight drop in temperature, eyes that moved away a second too fast, a supervisor who had previously been warm now scheduling their check-ins through an assistant. The promotion she'd been informally told to expect, a senior registrar position that would have accelerated her pathway to a full residency in Seoul, disappeared from the internal listings without announcement or explanation. Nia found out on a Tuesday. She stood in front of her locker for about 45 seconds doing nothing. Then she closed the locker, went to the staff bathroom, ran cold water over her wrists the way she always did when she needed her system to reset, and went back to her shift. She didn't tell Jae-hoon that night. She told herself it was because she didn't have enough information yet. That was partially true. The fuller truth was that she didn't want to become someone who ran to him every time the world pushed back. She had spent 8 years building her career on her own terms in 3 different countries. She was not going to let the first real relationship of her adult life also become the only thing holding her up. But Jae-hoon noticed. He noticed the way she carried her phone face down. He noticed she had stopped mentioning the promotion, which she had mentioned twice the previous week with the specific restraint of someone trying not to want something too loudly. He noticed she ate dinner faster than usual and went to the East Wing, not her room anymore. She'd moved to the main bedroom 2 months into the real relationship, but she still called it the East Wing in moments of stress, like she was reaching back for distance. He gave her 2 days. On Wednesday evening, he came home to find her on the kitchen counter again. Not ramen this time. Just a cup of tea going cold while she stared at nothing. "Talk to me," he said. "I'm fine." "You're using your fine voice. You have 3 of them. This is the one that means you're managing something alone and are about to make it worse." She looked at him. "I have 3 fine voices." "You have a fine because I'm actually fine voice, a fine because I don't want to discuss it voice, and a fine because I've already decided what to do and it may not be wise voice. That last one is what I'm hearing." Nia put her tea down. The promotion disappeared. "When?" "Tuesday." "And you waited until Wednesday because?" "Because I'm not a problem you need to solve." "I know you're not a problem," Jae-hoon said. "You're a person I love. Those are different categories." He pulled up a stool and sat. "Tell me exactly what happened." She did. By the time she finished, his expression hadn't changed visibly, but she knew him well enough now to read the small things, and what she read was cold and controlled anger being carefully managed. "I think it's Heerin," she said. "So do I." "Do you have enough to know for certain?" "Not yet, but I will." "Jae-hoon," she looked at him directly, "I don't want you to burn the hospital to protect me." "I wasn't planning to." "Then what are you planning?" "Information first," he said, "then precision, nothing that can't be traced back cleanly if necessary." He met her eyes. "I promised you no complications." "You also promised me honesty." Then honestly, if someone is dismantling your career to get to me, I will dismantle the source. But I'll do it surgically, not emotionally. Nia looked at him for a long moment. I hate that you being calm about this is actually reassuring. I've been told. She slid off the counter and picked up her cold tea. Then she stopped and looked at him from across the kitchen. The contract was easier, she said quietly. Nobody could break my heart if it was only paper. The room was very still. I know, Jae-hoon said. That's exactly why I asked for something real. She nodded once, pressed her lips together briefly, not tears, just feeling that she was deciding not to perform, and walked past him toward the corridor. She stopped at the doorway. For what it's worth, she said without turning, I'm not sorry I said yes. Then she was gone. Jae-hoon sat in the kitchen alone for a moment, and understood with complete clarity that what he stood to lose was incomparably larger than anything he'd ever built. Sung-min had the first full picture within 5 days. He laid it out in Jae-hoon's office on a Friday morning, printed photographs, communication logs, a paper trail through 3 separate media contacts. Shin Hee-rin had not simply gotten offended at a banquet. She had spent months building a coordinated operation. The leaked media photographs from the engagement rooftop had come from a contact in Hee-rin's network. The forum posts questioning Nia's scholarship had been seeded through 2 anonymous accounts linked to devices registered at properties connected to the Shin family. The hospital promotion had been quietly killed by a board member who had accepted a real estate favor from Hee-rin's father 3 years ago and had now been called on to repay it. And there was more. Emeka, Nia's brother, had been quietly identified in a document circulating among certain council members as a person who had received unofficial syndicate protection as part of a personal arrangement, phrasing designed to look like corruption rather than what it actually was, a man being kept alive. They're trying to make it look like the whole marriage was a scheme, Sung-min said. Like Dr. Akafor used the contract to get cover for her brother's situation, and you enabled it because you were compromised. Jae-hoon read through the documents twice. There are 2 council members whose signatures are on the internal communication, Sung-min said carefully. Ryu and Elder Beek. Jae-hoon looked up. Beek. Yes, boss. He set the documents down. Outside, Seoul was bright and indifferent and enormous. He thought about a woman who had sat on a kitchen counter at 2 in the morning and said the contract was easier. And he thought about how much it had cost her to say yes anyway, how much it was costing her now. There's something else, Sung-min said. He placed a single printed page on the desk. It was a fellowship offer, International Medical Research Program, Geneva, 12 months, fully funded, a significant career accelerator, the kind of opportunity that appeared once, if at all. The offer had been extended to Dr. Nia Akafor. 3 weeks ago. Jae-hoon looked at the page, then at Sung-min. She hasn't mentioned it. No. Jae-hoon was very quiet. Where did you get this? It came across my desk because the syndicate's legal team does a standard review of any significant external opportunities involving people connected to your household. Standard protocol. Sung-min paused. She didn't ask us to intercept it. We didn't interfere with it. She simply hasn't brought it up. Jae-hoon looked at the page for a long moment. The silence in the room was the kind that contained several things at once. Put it back where it was, Jae-hoon said finally. Boss. She knows about it, she's deciding, that's her right. Sung-min hesitated, and if she decides to go. Jae-hoon didn't answer immediately. He looked out the window at the city below. Then I figure out what that means, but I'm not going to trap her by pretending the offer doesn't exist. Sung-min took the page and left. Jae-hoon sat alone in his office with the full architecture of his problem arranged clearly in his mind. A woman he loved, a fellowship she hadn't mentioned, a rival who was methodically destroying her life, and a council that had just shown him exactly how far they were willing to go. That night they were in the same house, the same kitchen, the same hour, but the silence between them had a new shape, thick with things neither had said. There's something I should have told you, Nia said. I know, Jae-hoon said. She looked at him sharply. How? My team conducts standard reviews. I didn't ask them to look for it, but it came across. He held her gaze. I told them to put it back where it was. It's yours. I wasn't going to use it. Nia stared at him. Geneva, she said. Yes. You've known for 2 days. She was very still. Then, why didn't you say something? Because it's your decision, not mine. This story has layers and we're not done yet. Subscribe right now, smash that like button and tell us in the comments, should she take the fellowship? We're reading every single response. I didn't tell you, Nia said slowly, because I didn't know what telling you would mean. Whether it would feel like I was threatening to leave or asking for permission to go, or she stopped. I don't want any of those conversations. Then what conversation do you want? An honest one, she looked at him. Are you scared I'm going to leave? Yes, Jae-hoon said, simply without armor. She absorbed that. I'm scared that staying means watching everything I worked for get dismantled piece by piece. The promotion is gone. The hospital is different. My name is in forums being picked apart by people who don't know me. Her voice was steady, but her hands were not. I'm scared that loving you is the most expensive thing I've ever chosen. It is, Jae-hoon said, and I won't tell you it isn't, but I want you to know, he stopped, started again. What's happening to your career is not the cost of loving me. It's the cost of Hee-rin's campaign, and those are different things. One is real, one is manufactured, and I intend to end the manufactured one. How? Completely, he said, and publicly. She looked at him for a long time, and the fellowship. Your choice, entirely. I will not make it harder for you to go if you want to go. And if I go? He met her eyes. Then I'll be here when you come back, if you come back. Nia was quiet. Something in her face moved through several things at once before settling. I haven't decided, she said finally. I know. Don't decide for me. I won't. They sat in the kitchen in a silence that was not comfortable exactly, but honest. That was, Jae-hoon had learned what being with Nia actually meant. Not comfort by default, honesty by choice. What happened next came faster than either of them expected. On a Monday, 3 things moved at once. A council member named Ryu reached out to Jae-hoon's private line, not through official channels, through a personal intermediary, and requested a quiet meeting. Jae-hoon agreed and told no one except Sung-min. The meeting happened in a private room at a restaurant in Jongno that Jae-hoon had used for conversations requiring no witnesses. Ryu arrived with the specific energy of a man who had decided to bet on a particular side and wanted to lock in his odds early. He ordered tea, he didn't drink, and got to the point without theater. There's a block, Ryu said, 3 senior council members and 2 family heads who are prepared to support a formal motion to revisit your leadership stability. The grounds would be personal conduct unbecoming of the executive position. He paused. They don't expect to win the motion. They expect to make you spend political capital defending it, at which point they'll offer a withdrawal in exchange for a concession. What concession? Distance from the doctor, formal or informal, public or quiet. They aren't particular about the mechanism. Ryu turned his teacup slowly. They're prepared to offer a strategic marriage to a family of your choosing as a parallel path, something that neutralizes the Article 7 question permanently and resolves the optics issue. Jae-hoon looked at him. Why are you telling me this? Because I've been on this council 26 years, Ryu said. And I'm tired of watching good leaders get managed into bad decisions by people who only care about preserving their own angles. He met Jae-hoon's eyes. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this because the organization is better when the man at the top isn't being blackmailed into mediocrity. Jae-hoon nodded once. Who's leading the block? Beek is the face. Hee-rin's father is the money, but the architecture, Ryu paused. The architecture is Hee-rin herself. Jae-hoon drove home. Nia was on the terrace with a medical paper and a blanket, the cold October air apparently not a deterrent. She looked up when he stepped outside. She read his face immediately. What happened? The block made their offer through Ryu. She set the paper down. What did they ask for? Distance. They want me to step back from you. Formally or quietly, they don't care. Nia was very still, and I said nothing. I came home. He sat in the chair across from her. I wanted to tell you before I did anything. She looked at him for a long moment. The city hummed below them, indifferent as always. What do you want to do? She asked. End it, Jae-hoon said. Not defensively, not as a reaction, completely. I want to dismantle every piece of it and rebuild the rules that made it possible in the first place. That's not a small thing. No. You'd be burning bridges you've maintained for years. Some bridges should burn, he said. The ones that only stand because everyone's afraid to set them on fire. Nia looked at him for a long time. Something moved in her expression, not fear, not relief, more like recognition. The way she looked sometimes when a patient's chart finally told the full truth and she could see the right path clearly. Jae-hoon, she said quietly. I applied for the Geneva Fellowship 4 months ago, before the banquet, before the campaign against me started. He waited. I was thinking about what my life would look like if the contract ended and everything went back to what it was. I wanted to have somewhere to go. She paused. I got the offer 3 weeks ago. And then you told me this was real and everything changed, and I didn't know what to do with the offer anymore. Do you still want to go? I want to be a doctor who got that fellowship on her own merit, she said. Not a doctor whose opportunities are being taken and given by men who have decided she's a useful piece to move around. Her voice was steady and fierce. I want my career back. I want the promotion that was taken from me. I want my brother to be safe without it being weaponized. And I want... She stopped. Say it, Jae-hoon said. I want this, you, what we have, but not if it costs me everything I was before I knew you. It won't, Jae-hoon said. You can't promise that. I can promise you that I'll spend everything I have making sure it doesn't. He leaned forward. And I'm starting this week. That same night, Nia received a call from her hospital supervisor, not the assistant this time directly. The tone was conciliatory. Apparently the promotion posting had been removed in error. It would be relisted within the week. Nia stood in the hallway with her phone after the call ended. Error, she said aloud to no one. She knew it wasn't an error. She knew Jae-hoon had made a call, or Sung-min had, or someone had exerted some form of pressure she hadn't asked for and might not have wanted. She also knew that the promotion was real and she had earned it, and it had been taken from her by people playing games that had nothing to do with medicine. She was still working out how to hold both of those things when Emeka called. Naru, he said his name for her, the Lagos shorthand that always meant he was nervous. There's someone watching my apartment building. I've seen the same car 3 days in a row. She went cold. Are you sure? Yes, I know what I saw. Don't go out tonight. Stay inside. I'm calling Jae-hoon. Jae-hoon was already on his phone when she walked into his office. He held up one finger without looking Sung-min on the other end, already moving. By midnight, 2 of Jae-hoon's people were stationed near Emeka's building, and the car had been identified. It belonged to a subsidiary company, registered to a holding group, connected to the Shin family. Nia sat in the office chair across from Jae-hoon when he told her. Her hands were flat on her knees, and she was using her composure the way she used surgical instruments, precisely, deliberately, not because she wasn't feeling anything but because feeling it all at once wouldn't help anyone. They went after Emeka, she said. They surveilled him. They haven't moved against him directly, not yet. But they will to pressure you. They were going to, Jae-hoon said, past tense. Now that I know it's them, he stopped. Nia. She looked up. I need you to trust me for the next 72 hours. Not blindly. I'll tell you everything afterward. But there's a sequence I need to run precisely, and I need it contained until it's done. She looked at him for a long time. This was the version of him she had originally feared, not the man who ate ramen at midnight and read her medical journals, but the man who ran this city's invisible machinery. The man who crushed factions and moved pieces with quiet, cold precision. But she also knew now that those were not separate people. They were the same man. And the same man who ran the machinery was also the one who had driven himself, unguarded, across the city on a Thursday evening just to stand on a pavement and ask for something real. 72 hours, she said. Yes. And then full transparency. Yes. She nodded, then go. Jae-hoon called the emergency council session for Thursday morning. He told no one the agenda. He sent the convening notice through official channels at 6 a.m., which gave every council member exactly 4 hours to arrive, enough time to come, not enough time to organize a counter-strategy. Sungmin had spent 3 days building the evidence package, financial trails printed and cross-referenced, the media leak chain documented with timestamps, the Emeka surveillance linked through 3 layers of corporate registration back to its origin. The hospital board interference recorded, dated, and connected. It was, Sungmin said quietly, the cleanest evidence package he had ever assembled, which meant it was also the most dangerous one. The council members arrived in the boardroom with the particular wariness of people who had received an unusual summons, and had enough experience to know that unusual summons rarely ended well for everyone. Elder Beek arrived last. He took his seat at the far end of the table with the expression of a man who had prepared for several outcomes and was quietly running probability on which one was coming. Jae-hoon stood at the head of the table. "I'll be brief," he said. "We all have other things to do." He opened the briefing. He did not raise his voice once. He moved through the documents the way Nia moved through a complex case, systematically, from evidence to conclusion, with no performance and no room for interpretation. The media leak chain, the hospital interference, the corporate registration linking the surveillance vehicle to the Shin family holding group, the internal communication between Beek, 2 other council members, and Heeren's intermediary, a document that used the specific phrase *personal arrangement in reference to Emeka's protection, which was a deliberate phrase, inserted deliberately, to create a particular impression. He placed the original communication on the table. Then he placed beside it the actual protection log, the one that showed the Bay faction threat, the timeline, the specific danger Emeka had been in, and the fact that shielding him had been Jae-hoon's unilateral decision before the real relationship had even begun. "The framing was manufactured," Jae-hoon said. "The timeline proves it." The room was very quiet. 2 council members coordinated with an external party to conduct a smear campaign against a civilian with no organizational standing, in order to pressure me into a political decision. He looked at Beek. "That is not a council prerogative. That is not organizational tradition. That is the use of syndicate resources and influence to endanger an innocent man and destroy a woman's career for personal gain." Beek's face had not moved throughout the presentation. Now it moved slightly, not guilt, not panic, recalibration. "The documents are circumstantial," Beek said carefully. "The financial transfer on the 22nd is not circumstantial," Jae-hoon said. "The device registration is not circumstantial. The timestamp on the internal communication placing it 48 hours before the hospital board meeting, not circumstantial." He looked around the table. "I've been patient because I prefer precision to impulse, but there is a clear line between organizational politics and what is in these documents. That line has been crossed." Silence. Then Council Member Choi, who had been quiet throughout, set down his pen. "What are you proposing?" "I'm proposing 3 things," Jae-hoon said. "First, Elder Beek and Council Member Yun resign their seats effective today. In exchange, I don't pursue the financial trail publicly. That is a courtesy, not a negotiation." Beek's jaw tightened. He said nothing. "Second, Article 7 is amended. Leadership qualification requirements will be reviewed and stripped of any domestic or marital criteria. This organization is not a dynasty. It is a structure. It should be evaluated by function." Low murmurs around the table. Third, Jae-hoon paused. The Shin family's access to council-adjacent channels is suspended pending a full review of their involvement in this campaign. If the review is clean, access is restored. If it is not, he looked at Choi, then we will have a separate conversation. Choi looked at the documents, then he looked around the table, then he nodded once. The vote was not unanimous, but it was enough. Beek left the boardroom without speaking. At the door he paused, very briefly, and looked back at Jae-hoon with an expression that contained a great many things, none of them submission, all of them acknowledgement. Then he was gone. Sung-min appeared at Jae-hoon's elbow as the room cleared. Hee-rin will know within the hour. Yes. She may move against Dr. Akhefer directly now that the indirect approach has failed. She won't, Jae-hoon said. Her father just lost standing. Her resources are cut. She's calculating an exit, not an escalation. He looked at Sung-min. How is Emeka? Safe. Our people are still on the building. He wants to know if he can go to class. Tell him yes. Tell him also. Jae-hoon paused. Tell him his sister is the reason this city runs better today than it did yesterday. Sung-min blinked once. That was for Sung-min a visible emotional reaction. Yes, boss. Jae-hoon drove home. Nia was not there. He stood in the kitchen, which was quiet in the specific way it got when she was working a long shift, not empty, just paused, the whole house holding its breath for her return. He sat at the counter. He did not eat anything. He waited. She came home at 7:40 in the evening with her coat and her bag and the particular tiredness of a double shift. She stopped in the kitchen doorway when she saw him. He told her everything, the full 72 hours in sequence as promised. She listened without interrupting, standing in the doorway with her coat still on, watching his face. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. Emeka is safe. Yes. The promotion is real. Reinstated with back credit. I had the board confirm it in writing this afternoon. And Hee-rin. Contained for now, but I think the fight has gone out of the campaign. He looked at her. It's not over completely, but the manufactured part, the part designed to make you disappear, that part is done. Nia took off her coat, hung it on the hook by the door, which was her hook, which she had claimed on day 3 of the real relationship by simply putting her coat there, and which had been her hook ever since. She walked to the counter and sat beside him. The fellowship, she said. What about it? I'm going to decline it. Jae-hoon looked at her. You don't have to. I know I don't have to, she said. That's the point. I want to stay, not because I'm afraid of what happens if I leave, not because you need me here, because I want to be here. She looked at him directly. That's new for me, wanting something purely because I want it, not because it's strategic or safe or the right move for someone else. She paused. You did that. You changed how I think about choosing. Jae-hoon was quiet for a moment. I watched you in that council room, he said. She looked at him. You weren't there. Sung-min sent me footage from the security feed afterward. He met her eyes. I know you've been managing more than you let on. The hospital, your brother, the press, the whispers. I know how much of it you've been carrying without asking me to fix it. I wasn't going to become a project. You were never a project, he said. You were always the person who made everything else worth the effort. He paused. I need you to know that what I did this week, the council, the motion, the amendments, I didn't do that to keep you. I did that because it was right, and because the world that kept trying to swallow you whole needed to be a different world. Nia looked at him for a long time. Then she leaned her head against his shoulder, which she did almost never, and which meant more every time. Okay, she said quietly. She almost left anyway. Not because of Hee-rin, not because of the council, not because of anything she could name cleanly. It was subtler than that, the accumulation of months, the weight of being someone whose life had become entangled with forces larger than herself, the quiet fear that one day she would look in the mirror and not recognize the woman looking back. She had packed a bag on a Wednesday, not everything, just enough. She told herself it was practical. She wanted to stay at the hospital housing temporarily, recenter, breathe without the city watching. Emeka found out from Sung Min, who found out from the house staff, who had seen the bag by the door at 6 in the morning. Emeka called Jae-hoon. Jae-hoon did not go to the house. He went to the hospital. She was coming through the lobby at 7:15 when she saw him standing near the entrance, coat on against the morning cold. No security, no car visible, just himself in the ordinary gray light of a Wednesday. She stopped walking. "I'm not running," she said before he could speak. "I know. I just needed." "I know what you needed." He looked at her. "I'm not here to stop you. I'm here because there's something I should have said a long time ago and I kept finding reasons not to." He paused. "I kept thinking there'd be a better moment, a cleaner one. But there's no clean moment in the life I have, and I think I've been waiting for conditions that don't exist." Nia waited. "The first time I asked you to marry me," Jae-hoon said, "I offered protection, terms, something structured and bounded and safe to refuse." His voice was quiet, but there was nothing uncertain in it. "The second time I stood on a pavement and offered honesty, a real marriage, no contract." He held her gaze. "This time I'm not offering a transaction or a declaration. I'm asking you to consider a life, not a year, not a term. A life where you practice medicine the way you believe in it, where your brother is safe not because of a deal, but because we built something solid enough that the people who threaten him lose interest. Where you argue with me at midnight and read your journals on the terrace and take fellowships when you want them and decline them when you don't." He stopped. "A life where you never have to disappear to keep your dignity. Where loving me doesn't cost you who you were before me." Nia's eyes were very bright. "And if I had decided to go," she asked. "Then I would have let you go," he said simply. "And I would have been here when you came back if you came back. That part hasn't changed." "You are the most impossible man," she said. "You've mentioned that." "I've been thinking about it since the engagement banquet," she said. "What Beek said, that love is a moving target." She looked at Jae-hoon steadily. He wasn't wrong, but he drew the wrong conclusion. The answer to a moving target isn't to stop moving, it's to move together. The morning light was coming through the hospital's glass front, pale gold, ordinary, the kind of light that belonged to real life and not cinematic moments. "I'm not going to Geneva," she said. "You can still." "Jae-hoon." She looked at him, and in her voice was every version of herself. The woman who had stood in a clinic doorway fighting for a patient who couldn't pay, who had negotiated terms at a conference table with Seoul's most dangerous man, who had learned the house staff's names and eaten ramen at midnight and cried once quietly when Emeka had called to say he was safe. "I know I can. I'm choosing not to." She took a breath. "I'm choosing this, you, the life you just described." A beat. "But I want the wedding to be mine. Not a council requirement, not a syndicate formality. Mine." "Done," Jae-hoon said immediately. "Nigerian fabric in the dress." "Done." "Emeka walks me in." "Done." Sung Min is not allowed to cry without warning. There was a pause. "I cannot make that promise," Jae-hoon said. She laughed the real laugh, the first night laugh. The one that had started everything. And he felt it in his chest the way he had felt it every time, which was the same as the first time. She picked up her bag. "Take me home," she said. He did. 4 months later, on a Saturday in late spring, the terrace of a Seongbukdong residence was transformed by flowers and quiet string music, and the soft, warm light of a Seoul evening that had decided, for once, to cooperate. There were no council members present. There were no cameras, no press badges, no political calculations in the seating chart. There was Emeka, in a deep blue suit, standing at the top of the terrace steps with his sister on his arm, and his eyes doing something he would later insist was allergies. There was Sung Min, at the edge of the arrangement, with an expression that was aggressively neutral and occasionally failing. There were doctors from the hospital who had watched Nia work and had a clear picture of what she was worth. There were a handful of men from Jae-hoon's organization who had watched him change over 2 years and understood, without needing it explained, what they were witnessing. And at the center of the terrace, Standing in front of the city they had both refused to be swallowed by, Jae-hoon waited. Nia came through the doors in a gown that was ivory and deep gold, the fabric carrying a woven aso oak pattern along the border that caught the evening light and held it. She walked steadily, the way she always walked, not hesitant, not performing, simply present and entirely herself. When she reached him, she looked up at him the way she had looked at him in the kitchen on 100 ordinary nights. He said, "You were the only person who ever entered my life without asking what it could give you, so everything I am, I give willingly." She looked at him for a moment. The city glowed behind him, Seoul at evening, enormous and honest in the last light. She said, "Then this time I'm not choosing a contract, I'm choosing home." And she was. If this story gave you something like this video, subscribe and drop a comment below. Tell us the moment you knew they were going to make it. Part 3 is coming, and you need to be here for it.